Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and we're back in the workshop and we're doing another build. Matter of fact, we're going to do a build and then we're going to take it test flying. So this time around we've got the Clik 25 from RC Factory, which is an indoor aerobatic model which has been provided by our friends at Aerobatx. So make sure you please check out Aerobatx website, which will be linked down below. So let's take a look at the kit. Okay, so here's the model, which will open up very shortly. You see it looks really smart, and here's a setup for it, or recommended setup. 2S Lipo, micro receiver, so on and so forth, Wingspan, etc. And this is the hardware that's going inside it. It's all supplied by Aerobatx, which has been designed for this model. So a little tiny speed controller. I think that's just a 25 amp ESC. We'll get that out shortly. T-motor, of course, AT2202. Some tiny servos, and that's a spec of the servos there for those that are interested. And then I've got a couple of small batteries. I'm going to try this on 2S 250 milliamps, and they are super small. I've got a bunch of spares for this model and another model. And then, luckily for me, Aerobatx gave me some stickers and a little bit of chocolate. They know me too well. And of course, I've got a cheeky RC Factory hat and an RC Factory strap. So thank you very much, guys. Right, let's get this model opened. Okay, so let's have a look in the box. Now, I must admit, when you first open a box like this, it's always a little bit daunting. If you haven't done one of these before, it's like loads of parts, where they go. But once you get stuck into it, they're not too bad. So let's check out the wing section to start off with. Now, already I can tell this is going to be much lighter than my other model I built last time around. Much thinner wing section here, just under 4mm thick. So yeah, there's the first wing. You can see I've gone for the green scheme. It's the other half of the wing. Big ailerons, love it. Of course you need big control surfaces because you're flying slowly and you're flying indoors, so not much air going over the movements. I'm not even sure what this part is at this stage, to be honest with you. Possibly rudder, part of the rudder. Yeah, it looks that way. Horizontal stabilizer. Again, you're feeling super fragile at the moment, but of course they've got no carbon in them. But you can see that there's already slots in here where we're going to be putting the carbon stiffeners. And I'm not sure what these parts are, but we will find out. Super thin foam. Let's get some of these bits out of the way. Canopy, nice little carbon fibre effect on there. Obviously not carbon fibre, just printed straight onto the foam. Like everything's printed onto the foam here. Here we have half the fuselage. Bottom half, top half. Nice. Cross section of the fuselage. And you can see the cutouts here for the servos and other bits you'll pop out. This will be for the top of the fuselage and bottom fuselage coming together. Small section. So yeah, it's looking good. Usual kind of design from RC Factory as you expect. A whole bunch of carbon fibre as well. And then the parts pack inside, which is great. So I think what we're going to do is get this laid out. I'm actually going to print out the instructions as well, and then we're going to make a start. Okay, so I've just printed out the manual, and there are a lot of steps. As a matter of fact, there's 220 steps inside this manual. But the good news is every single one of them is a colour photograph. So it looks pretty easy to follow along. So let me just show you. Random page here. See, nicely illustrated pictures telling you exactly where to glue, what type of glue to use as well. So that is good. And if you want a link to that manual, it's on the RC Factory website, but I'll also put a link in the description down below on this video for you. So as with all of these types of models, the very first thing that you want to do is weight over the hinge line on the control surfaces. And the first time you do this, it feels a little bit odd, to be honest with you, because what you need to do is bend over all the way back the control surface like that. So that's the wing and that's the aileron bent over. And then apply some weights to it. So I'm just using 2 big batteries and leave it for an hour. So I'm going to do all of that to these control surfaces, both half the wings, horizontal stabilizer and the rudder. Wait for an hour, and while I'm waiting, I'm going to read the manual. That's just about done. So now we can glue the wings together. Okay, so now that those hinges, I'll say hinges, but now that the foam's been bent over and weighted for over an hour, we can get on with actually putting the wings onto the fuselage. I'm doing this exactly as they're doing it in the instructions, having not made one of these before. It looks pretty straightforward, but basically in the next 4 or 5 steps, just get the fuselage piece out, get each wing piece out, make sure they're the right way up and the right way around, and you can do that just by lining the pattern up. And then they recommend using medium CA on this piece, activator on the other side, and then just marry them up together. And then we're ready to start putting some carbon fibre into this to stiffen it all up. So I'll get that done and then show you guys. Okay, so that's the first 2 pieces of carbon on, and the wing's already stiffened right up. Let me just show you. So the wing is on the tail section of the fuselage. We've got a front section of the fuselage to go on yet. But this piece on the front here, on the leading edge, kind of bends round and was a little bit tricky. So in the instruction, it tells you to mark the centre of this. It's 68 centimetres, so the centre's 34. Put a little pencil line on that, then you know that's got to go in the centre of the fuselage. I sprayed some activator on the foam first, then I just cyanoed probably about 4 inches either side, well, 2 inches either side, 4-inch strip in the middle first, because that's where the bend is. Got that gluing, got that stuck, then run cyano around the rest of the carbon, push that in, and then push it in on this side as well. I used the flat edge of my square there to help me push it against it, and then that was fine. And that is the longest piece of carbon that's in the pack. The next longest piece is this bit here, which stiffens up the trailing edge. And again, just do a dry fit and make sure it fits in the slot first. Mine was about 3mm too long, so I just trimmed it off with a pair of side cutters, which worked fine. And then pulled it back out, run my cyano all the way through that slot, and then pushed the carbon fibre in. And I actually used the back of my knife just to push that in. So I didn't get it all over my fingers, although I still managed to get some of my fingers. And then use some activator again on top, and then that's absolutely fine, that's stiffened up. So if you are following along this build, we're already on step 18 of 220 steps. But, you know, it's starting to take shape. So let's carry on now, getting the front section on and some rather odd looking pieces. Okay, and there is the other part of the fuselage on the front section stuck on, and also these interesting shapes here. Now, to be really honest with you guys, I don't know what they're called. If you know what they're called, please put something in the comments down below. For now, I'm going to call them teeth. Yeah, okay. Someone help me out here. Please tell me what they are. Right, now that's done, we're on step 28, which is onto the horizontal stabilizer. Okay, so progress update. We're on step 42. Attach the horizontal stabilizer to the back, which also had a carbon piece in the elevator itself. Then it was just glued on this section here. And then we've also run some very fine carbon all the way down here on each side with thin cyano, keeping them in place. And that's given the back a little bit of strength, not much at the moment. It'll be interesting to see how much stronger this gets as we're going through it. I then also pushed out the inserts, which is where the other half of the fuselage is going to go on. Oh no, I've missed that back one. There you go, they just literally pull out nice and easy. So it's starting to take shape, but it is very, very flimsy at the moment, as you can probably see from that angle. But not to worry, super light. I will weigh this at the end, actually. It'll be quite interesting to see what the all-up weight is, see how close it is to what's on the box. But yeah, looking good. I'm looking forward to flying this. Right, next step is, we're going to stick a servo in already. Let's take a look at that. Okay, so I'm using the recommended servos for this, which are the Volt D6M servos, which come in the pack, or come in the kit for it. And there it is, there's the first servo in. And the weird feeling was, or the weird thing, is that we have to cyano the servos in. So it's just use some medium CA, which I've done, which just feels really odd. I've not powered it up, I've not centered it. I'm presuming I'll be able to get to that head okay once it's all together. So we will find out. I may have made a mistake there, but let's give it a go. So next up, we're going to get another part of the fuselage and stick that on. Okay, so center section of the fuselage is now on, and I've gone ahead and put some of this carbon rigging on, which I thought was going okay. And then I realised just a second ago, after I glued it, that these are all nice and straight. This one, this one, this one. But this one here has got a very slight bow in it. So the carbon's under a bit of tension and it's bowing. So I've got something slightly out of a line there. Now I did weight the wings down before I did it, and I made sure everything slotted in. But as I picked it up and glued it, something moved. So I'll probably try and loosen this one off in a minute without snapping the carbon, because that'd be bad, because I haven't got any spare. So we'll work around it in a minute, but it's taking shape for sure, and it's looking good, and it's starting to get a little bit stiffer. So next up, and if you are building this, I'm on step 64, and it looks like you've got to cut 5 different pieces of carbon again to give more strength around this section. Now, what I will say, even though I got this bit slightly wrong, or one of them slightly wrong, it was quite easy to follow because everything's slotted. So there's little tiny slots. I know you can't see from that angle, but let me see if I can bring it up. Everything's slotted where it goes in. So slot here, slot here. You glued these sections in on the middle, plastic bits here for the carbon to go into, which I thought was quite nice. It was well thought out. So hopefully the next section just carries on building up from this to build in the rigging. So I'll get some more rigging on. Let me just flick through. And actually that's a lot of rigging. There's like 2 pages of rigging in the instructions. Instructions everywhere. Yeah, so it looks like rigging and then control horns. So let me get to that page at least, and then I'll show you where we've got to. But lots of fiddly carbon work. And by the way, guys, despite trying my best, every single one of my fingertips currently has glue on it. Okay guys, so it really feels like we're starting to crack the back of this now. We're on step 122, so I appreciate I've jumped ahead a bit since the last little clip, but really that was all doing a lot of carbon work. So let me give you a close-up of what we've just done, and then we'll push forward. So there we go, you can see first off we've got carbon rigging from the nose back to the undercarriage. The undercarriage is also, of course, on with these little tiny wheels, and then working down the fuselage we've got all these supports in place as well, and they weren't as fiddly as they may look. It's just a case of cutting a couple of pieces of carbon to the right lengths, and it tells you that in the instructions. And then on the ailerons as well, some further bracing actually on the aileron, which is different. Got the centre kind of bridge piece in here, then these bits going across. So all this extra carbon has made it now a lot stiffer, which is good. So following along, we are now on, we've just done 121, we're on 122, and it looks like we're getting ready to put some servos in. Let's get that done. Okay, I feel like we are making progress now. We have the aileron servo in place, which is the one right up front here. I'll give you a close-up of that in a minute. And the rod's connected. I've left the rods over-length. Aileron head's not screwed in place either. Everything's just loose, but the rods are connected. Then over the other side as well, we've put in the other servo, which must be for the rudder, I presume. Well, for the tail section anyway. So it is getting there. So let me just give you a close-up. So there's that front servo and the very tiny screws that hold those rods in place. And you'll see the head also has the cotton wool wrapped around it as well with sino on. Slightly long at the moment, so I'm going to trim those, nothing screwed in. But down this end, we have the rods connected. And they're just really plastic keepers. They've got heat shrink over them and sino inside the heat shrink as well. They should be okay. All the servos are glued in place with medium sino as per the instructions. So next step is to get the top half of the fuselage on. I've already gone ahead and stuck the canopy to the fuselage. We'll get that done, then it should be a case of moving on to the rudder. And there we go. We have the top section of the fuselage finally glued on, and the model is looking really nice in my opinion. The top bit's all still a bit flimsy at the moment because there's no supports on it, but we've also glued the rear rudder post, which comes attached with the rudder. That's this section here is the post, if you like, glue lines here. You can just about see slight misalignment on the misprint, but that's okay. Rudder's on. So next up, we've got to add some supports to the horizontal stabilizer and to the rudder, which we actually prepared many steps ago. Number 7 and number 8 here we cut to length ages ago out of those 5 long bits of carbon rod that we had. They're the final 2 bits to get glued on. So that brings us up to 160 or 161 once we've done those. So it's time to get those on. Okay, so update time. We are cooking on gas now, definitely on the home straight, which is good. Let me give you a close-up of what we've just done. So you can see we have our rod in for our elevator and our connection there. And these little tiny keepers that get the rod guided all the way down to the servo. They were a little bit fiddly to do, but not too bad. Servo again is just in there loose, or the servo head rather is in there loose, not got a bolt through it yet. And I've not tightened up this one yet either. We'll do all that once the radio's in. Going along to the front, I have just this second glued on the motor mount. So that's looking pretty good. I've left off the rear 2 pieces of carbon at the moment, the cross pieces here, because they're both different lengths they're behind the tube. Both different lengths per design, per the instructions. I just want to leave them to the last minute because I'm a little bit confused over which goes where, or whether there's a mistake and they should have been the different lengths. But regardless, we've got these straighteners in here as well, which go through the top fuselage into the bottom section. One there and also one here as well. So it's really started to stiffen up this top section now. And then up next, so if you are building this at the same time, we've just done 193, 194. We are on to 197, which is attaching the T-motor and the ESC in. So let's get that done. So have a little peek as to what's next. It's always good to look over the page if you are building one of these, because sometimes you find on the following page it gives you a bit more help as to what you're meant to do on the previous page. So it's a case of putting in the ESC and some of the wiring by the looks of it. And that's for the battery there. And then getting the top canards on. Right, so we're definitely getting there. There's only 220 steps. The next page takes us 208. So let's get to this point and then I'll show you. Okay, so motor is in. Batteries run for the wire. And the next step is putting these sections on, which go at the back here, top and bottom. I think they're called canards. I'm pretty sure that's right. Correct me if I'm wrong down below in the comments. But let me give you a close-up look as to what I've done with the ESC. So the model carefully on its back, what I've actually done is I've wired the motor wire directly to the ESC behind that little bit of heat shrink. So I actually got rid of, not necessarily weight, but just got rid of extra wires. So these were already on the ESC. There was no bullets on the motor anyway. So rather than adding bullets and having lots of wire hanging around, I thought, you know what, I'll just solder them straight on, then put a bit of heat shrink over the end of the ESC. So a little bit of weight for the heat shrink, but then a bit of weight loss there. But regardless, it looks tidier doing it that way. Okay, wires are still loose. I've not put the receiver in yet, but we are definitely making progress. Not many steps left. 203. Let's go. Okay, so there she is. The Clik 25 by RC Factory is complete. Now, I appreciate I whizzed through quite a lot of that build. To be honest with you, it's because I was against the clock. I actually got a haul booked for tomorrow in preparation for this video, and I didn't get around to building the model over the weekend, which I planned to. And I've just rushed this to get it finished so we can go and fly it tomorrow so I can get this video out for you guys. I don't want to miss my slot that I've already paid for. So I've missed out a few little steps for you, but I'll give you a close up in just a minute. I've literally only got 2 minutes now to go and pick up my son from nursery, just rush. And then of course I'm flying tomorrow, which you're going to see in just a few seconds anyway. So I'm really pleased with the way it come out. I have got 1 or 2 things that I still want to do on it. Let me just show you first the main thing. I've had to use a receiver that I don't want to use. How should we do this? Turn it upside down. Model has become harder to handle as more bits have been put onto it. If I carefully prop it upside down there and just give you a close-up, I'm currently using this rather big and clunky Futaba R700 and what was it? R708 SB receiver, which I didn't want to use. My plan was actually to use this very tiny receiver here. You can just see how small that is, and that's also, if I can focus, that's also a Futaba receiver there. but I haven't got time to solder it because this all needs soldering. That's your different channels there where your signal wire goes to on those solder points, and then everything comes off those black and red for power. So I hadn't had time to do that because it's going to be a bit fiddly in soldering, but I'm going to swap that out because it'd be, if I put them side by side, can't even pick it up. Put them side by side, that'd be considerably smaller and considerably lighter and actually ideal for indoor flying. So I'm going to take all those servo heads off and obviously solder them directly, then tidy up all those wires next time round or at a later date. But I haven't got time to do it for flying in a minute. So that is probably just about it. You've already seen the motor wires being shorter into the ESC. Everything's configured. I've just gone with 100% on movement, and then I've just done 45% on Expo just to try it out as a starting point. So to be honest with you guys, parts of the build were a bit fiddly, but that's what you expect from building something that's so delicate like this. You know, it's extra thin foam, lots of bits of carbon fibre, lots of glue all over my fingers. But it was very enjoyable. There's only the odd one or two things that I struggled with. There's some tiny keepers on the bottom of these servos. Don't know if that's going to focus for you guys. Yeah, there it goes. Just under here, you see these black tiny washers. You might not be able to see them at that angle. There you go, that's better. I found those difficult to get on, must admit to those. But there's obviously a few of those. Some bits of carbon fibre are a little bit fiddly. But that was about it really. So overall, a thoroughly enjoyable build. I think from like a build difficulty point of view, if I had to like rate this out of 10, 10 being most difficult build, it's probably like a 6 just because of being fiddly. You know, if you're a complete newbie to it, you may struggle a little bit with it, you may want a little bit of help, but my advice is just have a go. Have a go anyway and just take your time doing it. There's no rush. Unfortunately, I'm always rushing because I've always got on to the next project, or I've got a haul booked, or I've got something else I've got to get on with. So it was a bit of a rush for me this afternoon, but it's good to go. Take your time. The instructions are pretty good. Photographs every single step of the way. There's also a really good YouTube video which is linked on Aerobatx website, which is where I got the kit from, so thank you again Mandy and Clive for sending me the kit out. And there's also the PDF manual that you can download from them as well, so make sure you check those out if you are building it. Just follow along the steps. But I'm ready to go and fly, so let's do that now. Okay guys, so we're down the hall with a couple of buddies. I've got Nick behind the camera and also down here with Andy as well, doing a bit of indoor flying today. And we're ready for the test flight of the Clik 25. I've got a camera in the middle as well, so hopefully we can get some flight footage from that. But yeah, it's looking very promising so far, like I said, during the build process. So hopefully it'll fly a lot slower than the last one. So let's give it a go. Okay, here goes the nerves. Almost into the wall there. Oh, look at that, already flying a lot slower. Nice flat turn on the rudder as well. Accidentally into a prop hang then. There's like a little vibration from the motor. I think my band might have gone properly, but check that in a minute. But this is really easy to control in here in comparison to what I flew last time. Should stop talking, if there's on the talk, I'll go close to the wall. Feels nice. See if I can slow it down a little bit more. That's about just under half throttle. A bit more for the corner. The turn. It's very responsive on the rudder, as you can tell from that turn there, which is great to get it away from the walls. Whoa. Thought I was going to hit the other camera then.
much more agile. No, I'm not doing any real manoeuvres with it at the moment, but still getting used to it, obviously. There you go, a bit of knife edge. That is just doing it all by itself. No rudder needed for that. That was weird. I'm going to try that again now. It's the tiniest amount of rudder. Brilliant.
1 minute.
Right, let's bring her in for a landing. Not that I want to. Absolutely brilliant. I really enjoyed that. It shows it's got loads of potential. I think there was a slight vibration from the front there, so I just need to check that band's on and the prop's on square. So I was getting a little vibration there, but it just flies so slow, and just rolling it onto the knife edge, it was just holding it by itself, hardly any rudder at all. Obviously controlling it a bit with the power. So I can't wait to get used to that. So guys, I really recommend this. Check them out on Aerobatx website, and thanks again to Clive and Mandy for sending this one through to me. And you'll see a follow-up video from me probably in the next 3 or 4 weeks as soon as I get some more indoor flying in. Hopefully I'll get a lot better than that, but really promising, really like it. It's definitely a 9 out of 10 from me. Cheers guys, see you next time around.